This is TWiT.
There was a really interesting story from Kashmir Hill at the New York Times this week.
Yes,
I don't know if you guys saw it,
this.
on how the auto industry is collecting reams of data about consumers' driving habits and sharing it with insurance companies. The opening anecdote in the story follows a guy named Ken Dahl, who drives a leased Chevrolet Bolt and says he's a careful driver. He's never been responsible for an accident. And Dahl was surprised in 2022 when the cost of his car insurance skyrocketed by 21%. Quotes from other insurance companies were also high, and one insurance agent told him that his LexisNexis report was a factor. LexisNexis is this New York-based kind of global data broker. They cater to the auto insurance industry with this one kind of division they have, and has traditionally kept tabs on car accidents and tickets and helps determine potential insurance rates from that. Dahl wanted to know what was causing his insurance increase, so he requested info from LexisNexis under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. LexisNexis sent him a 258-page consumer disclosure report. And what it contained stunned him. This is from the Times. More than 130 pages detailing each time he or his wife had driven their Bolt over the previous 6 months. It included the dates of 640 trips, their start and end times, the distance driven, and an accounting of any speeding, hard braking, or sharp accelerations. The only thing it didn't have was where they had driven their car. And so according to this report, the trip details had been provided to LexisNexis by GM, the manufacturer of the Chevy Bolt. And a bunch of insurance companies had requested information about Dahl from LexisNexis over the previous month. A quote from Dahl said, "It felt like a betrayal. They're taking information that I didn't realize was going to be shared and screwing with our insurance." And I think kind of the money quote in this story is automakers and data brokers that have partnered to collect detailed driving data from millions of Americans say that they have drivers' permission to do so, but the existence of these partnerships is nearly invisible to drivers whose consent is obtained in fine print and murky privacy policies that few read. As someone who doesn't drive, I feel it's inappropriate for me to react to this story, so I'm turning it over to the two, who I assume, drivers in this on this podcast today.
Ed?
Welcome to the machine. This has been going on since Metro Mile came in, since Progressive over a decade ago started doing an OMD thing you click into your car that would lower your insurance. They've been collecting this data forever. How do you think the insurance rates have changed over the years? They've changed because they've been collecting this data. I assume that Tesla, with their insurance, does the same thing. In fact, I'm fairly sure they do something like this. And guess what? This is the future. This is why having a car full of stuff, full of tech, full of apps is actually a really bad thing. I don't like that much information out there. Yet there it is. I hope. See, this, by the way, this feels like something that the government and the House and Congress need to get their up in arms about. Basic transparency in data collection and its use. That is this story should be bigger than TikTok, because this is affecting more Americans right now today. The cost of car insurance is an incredible burden on the average American. I have a beautiful Volvo XC40 electric car. It's got mechanical doors. They open and close. It goes forwards, backwards, side to side. It's an amazing vehicle.
Does it have one of those screens that does all?
It does.
You can
it has a screen, but it also has a beautiful physical knob. Fun little side. I met Steve Wozniak the other day, and he was talking to me about how electric cars suck because they all have screens, right? And how he hates Lucid Motors because they've got big screens and everything's got a screen. Mercedes got a screen. And I think that that's part of the problem. But the other problem is how much of that data, because a lot of them have sensors about driver awareness, for example, how engaged you are with the road. These are the things that are going to really screw people. Don't be scared of China coming in through the TikTok app. Be scared of the American manufacturers that are currently tracking how much you are seeing the road, how engaged you feel. These are the scary things.
Especially because these tools aren't always accurate. I know with the driver awareness tool, when I had reported on Amazon, they had kind of installed these in the cabs of some of their trucks and, driver vans. And there was kind of massive wave of complaints from drivers, not because they were like, oh, we want to not pay attention to the road, because they're like, I'll be sitting there driving, paying attention to the road, and it will ding me 5 times for inattention. Perhaps because, the person driving is Asian or just not white, and the camera can't properly attune itself to their eyes.
This has been a problem
slippery
forever.
slope.
Well, this
Jeff, do you have a smart car?
Sorry,
It's probably a middle school car. It's 10 years old, so probably doesn't have all of this. No. I had to spend $600 to get Android Auto added to it.
What is that?
Android Auto, same as your Apple. That I can look at the map on the car screen. It has a screen. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think first let's underscore, as we like to say in journalism, great reporting by Kashmir Hill.
Fantastic.
This is the kind of privacy
such a
story.
Good journalism.
Yeah, instead of doing the moral panic about the internet is taking all of our data and I don't know my data, and with it's non-specific and not to the point. This is specific. It is a violation of your own space and what you do. Point 1. Point 2, none of this required the internet. This is about evil data brokers and evil insurance companies. And the data is going to be out there. What's needed from legislators, as you say, Ed, what's absolutely needed now is for them to come out with. So what they can do is they can forbid the use of this data. You can't, it's going to be collected for various reasons, for various things. Okay, whatever. You can forbid it being collected. You can forbid it being used for insurance. That's what legislators are for.
Or you could even, at the bare minimum, mandate that they disclose it's being collected and give you the opportunity to opt out.
But also, to your point earlier, Paris, like, remember Kinect, Microsoft's camera?
Mm-hmm.
Like the thing for the Xbox? It couldn't see black people. The panopticon systems that many contractors use, the ones that they use to tell if you're actually watching the screen, they continually see things like dreadlocks or even just the hair of African American people as things that suggest they're not there. These systems are biased. They are racially biased. And that's before you get to the obvious, like, this is just invasive. These systems are biased against people, like many algorithmic systems, like the mortgage system that was something like 80%. There was an insane amount of bias in the mortgage system. Using data sets to make calls like this is insane. And by the way, I'm correct. Tesla does have a safe driving system for their insurance. They give you a score, kind of similar to Metromile. These companies want to do this, and they're doing it because guess what? They can now hyper justify how they judge you. But guess what? If these are the systems, then to be clear, there is a separate thing here. There is the I'm tracking where you're going and what you're doing. That is separate to racial discrimination and the engagement systems. Those I don't know if they're using that data. But just the very basic driving here, that is going to have a class issue as well. If you're driving through rougher neighborhoods, which as judged by an insurance company, if you're driving in such a way that suggests your profile is now risky, which is racially biased, these systems are going to hurt so many people, and they already are. And yet here we are chasing TikTok. I realize I'm repeating the point. It's just like, this is a thing hurting people today. Kashmir does a great job at this. Kashmir's done great work on data brokers. Companies like Spokio and Telius. These companies
Axios.
Axios.
Not Axios, Axiom.
Sorry. Axiom, there you go. I was like,
close, but not quite.
Kill me.
It could be the next business model they have. Who knows? But we got to.
And these companies are actual scum. They're actually dangerous to Americans. Data brokers, you can pay someone $25 a month to look up everything. They can find out your phone number, your address. In many cases, sounds like a moral panic. It actually really isn't. Companies like Bean have made good money deleting that information from the internet, but there's only so much you can do. These are things to target. Data brokers should be illegal.
But here's the other issue. Well, two things. One, data brokers go way back. When I worked at Time Inc., we used data brokers like crazy, and that's how we did subscription models and all this kind of stuff. I used to scare students and say, let me go to Axiom, not Axios, and I'd say, let me find out the names and addresses of, just to be really creepy, women between the ages of 21 and 35 who live within N miles of this place, who have a college degree and a car. And it'll give it to me. Far more than the internet ever does. Far more. But here's the other issue. I just said we need laws, we need legislators. But of course, government is the worst enemy of privacy. Because what's going to happen is, fine, this data doesn't tell the insurance company where you went, but it's discoverable. And certain states are going to come in and find out whether or not you went to an abortion clinic. And the data's there.
You're so right.
And that's the real issue.
Happening.
Exactly. And so there needs to be transparency. There needs to be the right to erase it. Again, it's not the internet. It's your car and the insurance company and your state's government that are the real problems here. Yeah, the internet can do stuff too, but it's more anonymized there. It's not in your personal space. This is about, I wrote a book about privacy called Public Parts. And so I learned about all this stuff.
Wow, a rare drink opportunity. We never get private parts.
Another one, yeah. Public parts. Private
those,
parts is
private
Howard
parts
Stern.
different.
Yes. I dedicated it to Howard Stern as a result because he was part of the title. Anyway, there is no right to privacy in the Constitution. It was invented by case law over time. It's something that, and I believe in the value of publicness and being out there and talking. I believe in the value of privacy. We've got to protect it. But it's and the problem I have is that when you have crap like Shoshana Zuboff and surveillance capitalism, it ruins it because it just goes overboard with, I'm going to say it again, moral panic in a way that's not really about harm. It's not really about the real problems. It's a distraction. But it's this kind of stuff. Don't pay attention to Zuboff. Pay attention to Kashmir Hill.
Yeah.
Carl Bode wrote a really good breakdown of Kashmir's article in TechDirt, which I'll quote from a little bit here. Again, like countless past scandals, this is the direct byproduct of a country that has proven too corrupt to pass even a baseline privacy law for the internet era, too corrupt to regulate data brokers, and obsessed with steadily defanging, defunding, understaffing, and curtailing the authority of regulators tasked with overseeing corporations with a broad and reckless disdain for U.S. consumer privacy and safety.
Yep.
I do think he has a point.
Carl rocks. Carl Mutt's nuts, that fella. He's absolutely ruthless. He's one of the few people who was on Elon Musk early. He was pushing very hard. Of course, just want to be clear, like Laura Kolodny, very early on the Elon beat, absolutely ruthless. Big up to Laura.
Yep.
But Carl has done an excellent job of really getting to the heart of how angry you should be. Because I used to, and I feel like this thing is a lot of what the tech industry does that leads to things like this is they turn everything into a very complex shell. They make it sound like magic. Goes back to the AI thing, goes back to TikTok, all this. None of these senators could really explain to you why TikTok's bad. They're just like, China.
Right.
China's scary. They're in my phone. This thing with the cars sounds complex, was signed in a complex way, but is fairly simple. They are invading your privacy. And I feel like there should be someone in Congress, the House, dare I say even the president, who could just say these things like Carl is. Carl is actually very cleanly spoken and furious about this stuff, as he should be. And I feel like more people in tech should be. I'm angry. Every time I read about this stuff, I get angry because you see the world burning around you and you see the fire engines all rolling up to a house that isn't on fire. And it's just...
Yeah, but who wants to go after? You're going after, in this case, the auto industry, the insurance industry, and the data broker industry, which all politicians use for all of their direct mail and
of course
advertising.
Yeah,
and
if they want to be cowards, they can.
Yeah, well, they're going to be.
Well, that sucks.
Hey, it's Leo Laporte. I hope you enjoyed this little snippet from our show this week in Google. For the full show, you can either go to our website, twit.tv/twig, or find Twig in your favorite podcast client. And, of course, there's links right below, somewhere down there, for more information.